Alright, so just like last time, to avoid the issues of not having a very good signal connection, I'm just going to record this and post it, and we can do some streaming again later when I've got a little better connection situation. Um, so, as promised, so I've got a little series of photos. This is from the last time that I created these types of miniatures. We're looking at the last steps in the process where I've got all the colors down and I'm throwing the layers of decoupage, which is clear, on top of it. That's what all those are. And so after the whole set was finished, I took pictures of them all just kind of laid out. So, and how I was going to pair them all up if I used them for myself. But then I ended up sending them off. And so compared to the other minis that we've got, so there's one of the two phoenixes that I made. That was the good phoenix, the blue phoenix. And that one would be the dark phoenix. I've got some Lin norms. I decided not to do any of the Lin norms that I did before, except... Oh. No, except that... You know, I don't remember. I remember doing that one, but I don't remember doing the one that I have in this set. But for whatever reason, I'm convinced that I must have done it the last time or else not printed it off. There's Vortex Dragon. That's from Iron Gods. Actually... I don't remember if the picture is from Iron Gods or the Bestiary. I forget. That's an Annihilator robot. I know for sure that that's from the Iron Gods AP. It's actually a broken down Annihilator robot. That's why it's on fire and looking all shoddy. I edited that picture before printing it off. And then so I've got another one of those that we're doing in this batch, but it's going to be a lot bigger. A lot bigger. Basically, I made the center portion of the robot, the gargantuan space, and then I put its legs out onto the other portion where it would have reach. That's a Juggernaut robot and the Annihilator robot, both from Iron Gods, which is a great adventure path. You have the Kraken, which is not a picture from Bestiary, but one that I got online, and a Tylosaurus, which is a picture from the Bestiary. Bestiary, I forget which one. The one that Tylosaurus is in. So the one in the middle there, the Dire Crocodile, he's going to get done again in this batch. But I didn't really double up. I didn't duplicate things that I'd done before very much. So I took 2 pictures of each of these sometimes when I wasn't sure that I was getting good. So that's the Tyrannosaurus. I was really proud of that one. I sure hope James Jacobs got that. Neothelid Overlord. Regular Neothelid. We're doing another one of those. It's going to be bigger. And a Shemhazian demon, I think? I forget. It's a demon. That's a Chakarba, which is demonic, but not an actual demon. It's from the Abyss. And it's originally from Second Darkness AP, which the stats for it are actually a little bit different and kind of cool. I personally feel like I would use a retrofitted version of the old stats for it in place of the ones that are in the Bestiary, and I'm not sure why that decision was made to make it I'll say less interesting, but it's, you know, that's my opinion. So Plasma Ooze on the left, a Kaizadu or whatever it is from Occult Bestiary in the middle, and an Omnipath also from Occult Bestiary on the right. I love the colors on that one. I had to think about it a long time about what I actually wanted on there to not make it look like garbage. And they did turn out pretty damn well, so. Yeah, I feel like they were really good. A really good set. So the Tarask, the Spawn of Rovagug version of the Tarask, he's going to get done again, which means, which ultimately means that there's not just one Tarask, is there? That's an Oma, big space whale from. They're in a bestiary now, but they were originally from distant worlds. Tarask as the Spawn of Rovagug, which is the version from Inner Sea World Guide. Tycalarius, which is a great old one. No, he's a a great old one, and he was featured in Occult Realms and Occult Bestiary as a campaign plot hook thing, plus an occult ritual and all sorts of craziness. I liked it. I decided it was worth finishing that off. And then, of course, one of my favorites, the Hecatoncheires Titan from Bestiary 3. One of my favorites, and I loved the colors on that. I took a lot of time to really mute them all out and mix them together in ways that I wasn't thinking about when I first did it, but it turned out really well. I like it. And a Wicker Man, which I promised for Wes Schneider, and I did it. They sent it. Now they have a Wicker Man. He has a Wicker Man. Everything's great. And so these are the bases from last time. 5 colossal sized and 8 gargantuan, and I did the colors, like bright colors, and a little bit of metallics on some of those black and whites on the one side, and then on the opposite side I did the stone and the ground sort of terrain. The tan beige one with the white lines is like a desert zone, like sandy desert zone. But otherwise, it's basically like the ground or a stone floor, stone tile kind of thing. And that was just basic painting. There's nothing super fancy about that. So I'm not going to go through this whole set, but I did take pictures of this entire process for creating these. You start off with your cardboard. These were my comparisons from the previous set of minis that I did before to make sure that I could get everything set up. And as you can see, the gargantuan sized bases there with the plastic things, that's essentially what we have right now at this point. And they're all cut out and sized. Same thing with those plastic things there. So you can see they're a lot bigger than this time around. Like I said, I've learned as I've gone through that sometimes you can minimize certain aspects of it and it still works out pretty well. So. Fuck it, we'll go through the whole thing. Why not, right? And at one point, I decided to put an extra layer of cardboard in between there with the plastics. It in no way, in any versions of trying to get things to adhere together, did it make things easier or better. If anything, I had serious questions about it the whole time. I was like, okay, we're scrapping the extra piece of cardboard. We're just going to do the 2 faces of cardboard and the plastic support. And so, in the end, we did away with the cardboard, or with the extra. It was a very thick piece of solid paper, almost cardboard, but it was really paper. But I was hoping it was going to make an extra layer that would be more supportive. It ended up, when it didn't adhere with the adhesives to the plastic support, I was really concerned that it could just fall apart. Just by normal wear and tear, normal moisture, normal everything. So that's essentially where we're at right now, is the cardboard and the plastic supports with the centers cut out, because that's where we're at right now. So like I said, those paper pieces there with the red plastic, that was an early idea, and I just halfway through scrapped it. And so this is the part where we're going to get into today. I used a primer last time, a paint primer, to do the first couple of layers on all these cardboard pieces. And that's the part we're going to get into today. These are all the printings of last time for my images. And it's also the part where you start sizing things out to get, like that right there, where you start sizing things out to get the proper piece of cardboard. And so I kind of overlap some of these layers when I'm just doing them without showcasing it. So as you can see, I've got the plastic support being glued on to a primed cardboard gargantuan base, and I'm starting with the sizing and outlining things of the miniatures. And I believe that I just used Elmer's glue to put the plastic onto the paint primed cardboard bases. This time I'm going to use paint and decoupage, and I may use the glue as well. Honestly, it's something I do kind of intuitively. If it looks like it's working, if it looks like it seals, if it looks like it'll hold, if it looks like it's falling apart, I tear it apart and make a different decision. So these are the after I've gotten the two halves of the bases glued together. What happens is the interior part of that seals pretty well, but the outer edges tend to peel away from one another. So you have to do multiple paint and adhesive stages. Okay, so you can see the two cardboard layers on that colossal sized base they're adhered to one another where the plastic support is in the center of it. And I've pressed it really, really hard together so that as the paint dried, it definitely is very sturdy in the center. And because you're focusing on the center and getting everything to adhere together really well, the exterior portions kind of fall to the wayside. Plus, as it's open like that, it gives it an extra channel for the air to come through and dry things out so that it doesn't stay wet for too long. So it seems like a problem when you're first doing it because you're like, oh no, it's not going to adhere all together all at once. And then you come back through, and I think this is what I did here, is I came back through with paint and adhesive and just pressed all the edges together with some sticky stuff in the middle. And sorry for the fuzzy pictures. But yeah, so these edges have been pressed together, adhered really, really well, and then we threw another layer of primer paint on top, and it all kind of binds it together. And so that's where these are. Essentially, these are fully primed bases that are ready for color, and they're kind of ugly. They're kind of boring and smudgy and whatever, but they are essentially prepared to be prettified with color, texture, fancy things. And so what happens is, especially when you're painting on both sides of something, it's really useful to be able to stand it up on an edge like this, because sometimes laying stuff down like these ones, it can be a real problem when things are drying and newspaper is sticking to your painted cardboard and all the rest of it. Sometimes it's not a big deal because if it's done in the early stages like this, you can just peel it away or paint over top of it and you won't even notice it. But you don't want it to happen too much where you've got these big, frayed edges things from the newspaper. And I just use newspaper and ads and things like that as a covering to make sure I don't have paint all over, my carpet and things. Didn't matter. It's a moldy apartment complex. Sorry, these are just sized out. You can see the measurements on the cardboard from Trask, where I basically measured out how big these have to be. This may well be another layer of primer. I put a lot of layers of paint and decoupage on these things, so this may well be a whole nother layer of paint just to cover over the splotchy gray, because I used gray and white during the early stages because hang on. Oh, what happened here? Okay, there we go. So because they were kind of splotchy like that. Because I used gray and white as my prime. It works if you're trying to make organic textures and things, and that's what I was going for. So it didn't really bother me. But yeah, because as I was doing the different stages for the miniatures and for the bases, I tended to double up on things, layers of paint at times. So, like I said, there was a lot of layers of paint that went into these things. So same thing here. All of those bases are being primed. They're all stuck together. At the beginning of all of this, I used 2 layers of cardboard for the miniatures as well as the bases. Now I'm realizing that you can get away with just 1 layer of cardboard on the miniature on the top, and then thicken it up with an extra layer on the tab, the tab at the base of it that sticks into the Pathfinder pawn's base. And if you just double up there, then it tends to be a little more lightweight on top, so it's not so top heavy when you're moving it around on the game table, because the base itself tends to be pretty heavy, especially with all those extra layers of paint. So as you can see, the one in the center there, it's got 2 differently sized, differently shaped pieces of cardboard that I adhered together. And I realized after a little while that that's really not necessary. Yeah, because my biggest concern was that, like the one there on the bottom, sort of in the center, like that they were going to bend and do all sorts of weird warping things during the drying process. But what ended up happening is, as they dried from the paint, they actually tended to get more straight and flat. And so the ones that had doubled up cardboard with extra layers of adhesive and paint and stuff, they tended to be a little more curvy. And so what I thought was one way ended up being the exact opposite. Extra layers, in this case it was gray, extra layers of primer or paint that was made to just go on underneath the colors, because these ones have not gotten to the color stage yet. Same thing with that. I figured if I'm going to throw a layer of gray paint on these ones to make them all look the same, then I might as well do it with these ones. And so I did. And then, so this would be where all of these illustrations for the minis were cut out into a little more clean, a little cleaner on their exterior cuts. And so just making sure that all of them are together with the painted cardboard piece for the miniature. I don't want to call it a base. It's a base for itself, but when you're dealing with another base and the Pathfinder pawn's base, it's like, oh wait, you can't just keep calling it the base. But it is a base piece of cardboard that is used for the picture and the paint and the decoupage and everything else. So it's like a canvas. And in that sense, it is a base, or a platform. We can also call it a platform. And so, sorry about the fuzzy. And so our bases are being colored here with the ones with the brown are going to end up being more organic ground looking terrain, and the ones with the splotchy gray that's been oh, I forget what they call it. It's splotchy, and it looks, it's not an even tone because I've thrown a little bit of light and a little bit of dark on top of a base gray to try and give it a little bit of personal character, unique character to it. And the same thing here, just kind of brushing color, layers of color over top. The one there with the blue is sort of like I'm trying to make it like water. The one with the gray is sort of like desert terrain. And in fact, like one of them was going to be like a hot, angry, burning desert, and the other one was going to be like a lovely, celestial desert, sandy space. So, so one of them got the shiny treatment with metallic colors and so on. And the other one didn't. They all turned out really nice, though. Unfortunately, the fuzzy pictures do not do it justice. Sorry about that. Also, I just saw Finish Your Basement today. Layers of color. A lot of times I'll do darker colors at the bottom of a mini and lighter colors at the top, and that's just to kind of simulate an atmospheric effect. With the Oma, I did the exact opposite. I did the dark at the top and the brighter colors at the bottom to simulate like it was up in space, hanging out above the atmosphere of a planet. Extra layers of color, in this case a little bit of some tan, beige-ish kind of color that I threw on top of the red and the darker blackish brown that I used to create that ground texture. And then on top of that I did what I considered like plant, sort of splotchy brush strokes. There, that's like way better. Colors, lots of layers of colors, and then at some point you throw a layer of decoupage on top of the color to make sure that it all sticks and adheres, doesn't go away, doesn't do any weird stuff, so that when you throw your mini, and so I think we're almost there, it's like this one's ready to go, and the illustration is ready, but yeah, that's why it's so shiny like that, is I threw a layer of decoupage on there. So it's like sealed in, and then you throw more decoupage on top, throw the illustration on top of that, make sure it's really, really, really well adhered to it, and then throw more layers of decoupage on top. Yay! How many layers do you need? Well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, I usually do at least 4, I think. So 1 to seal the color, 1 to adhere the illustration, 1 to go over top of the illustration first, and then a second one to go over top of the illustration to make sure. I probably would even still do a third one, just to make sure that everything is totally done. Like, you can see on the Tyclarius mini, toward the right, that the edge of it is a little bit bubbled up. The illustration, the paper, is bubbled up from the miniature. So that's a simple fix, but it happens. And so as you're throwing all this moisture, decoupage moisture over top of it, it's going to warp that paper a little bit. And with those little bubbles, you just fill it in with Elmer's glue or some more decoupage or whatever, and then squish it out, let it dry, and it'll be perfectly fine. A couple more layers of decoupage and you won't even feel it there. The colored ones are getting lines and decoupage. Probably just lines right here. Oh man, yeah, those colors were really fun. Like, you can see the Hecatonchires Titan begins as black, gray, white, and this magenta, purpley pink thing. And then I throw like some yellows and some grungy brown, and like, oh man, it turned out really well. These are it. These are the colored minis and bases. The lines are all painted down, and probably a layer of decoupage on top of that. These may well be drying from that or ready for that next stage, I forget. These ones are ready to be decoupaged. And so, yeah, and so that's what you do. You throw a layer of decoupage on, put the illustration on, make sure it's really nice and flat and adhered, and then let that dry. Go over it again with a layer of decoupage, let that dry, go through and find all your little bubble spots and take care of those, fill them in, do it all, and then do another layer of decoupage, and that seals it all together. So with these ones, I did the lines, I did little crosshatch things at the edges of the corners for the lines. It's not necessary, but I did it because that's how I wanted to do things. Plus, I was trying to use up the last of some paints. I was just like, you know, these are getting old. I'm not going to keep them around forever. Let's use as much of this as I can. So I did. I used as much of those paints as I could. And that's why there's so many colors happening there, because I was like, I'm not going to keep a lot of this stuff around. The newer paints I'll keep around, but like, okay, so those old paints right there by the brush, yeah, they're a little clearer there. To the left of the yellow brush down at the right of the picture, those are like old blue and yellow paint, acrylic paints. I mean, I'm talking like from the 70s or the 80s, okay? They're old. And so I was like, I gotta get rid of some of this. So I'm just going to use all these old colors, and then I'll mix them with a little bit of my new colors. Oh, and that's the Hackathon Grease Titan right there. So as you can see, I did so many layers of color on the bottom, and then I covered over it with that beige. And so just a tiny bit of the yellow and the pink and the dark brown black on the bottom, it just a little bit of it comes through. And then you brush on some other textured colors on top, and it's like, it turned out really fancy. Okay, here we go. Here are my, you can see on the black, can't really see it on the white one, although it's probably there. On the black one, you can see my lines that I drew with pencil, and then I just paint over top of them. And you don't see the lines after they're painted on. That was probably final decoupage layers, because this is getting towards the end. And these ones that aren't adhered with decoupage are about to be in these pictures here. So here we go. There's the last layers of decoupage. And adhering our illustrations, making sure that with each layer of decoupage that you find your little inconsistencies, your little bubbles. Use the X-Acto knife to cut the little bubbles, to pop them, and pull the air out of there, and then throw another layer of decoupage on. It should seal it all together. That Wicker Man, the paper really wrinkled, like hardcore. So when it does stuff like that, you just have to really work with it. Let it do what it's going to do drying on its own. Like, let it do its own process, and then do damage control to fix it. Don't try to fix it ahead of time, because you probably won't. You probably won't. You won't be able to. Just let it dry. Let it work it's all the moisture out first, then go back and try to do damage control. So you can kind of see it there where the paper is a little bit wrinkled. The other thing that you do is if you throw extra layers of decoupage on top of stuff like that, the wrinkles tend to not stand out as much. So I probably threw another layer on there just to thicken it out and flatten it out. And that's it. That's how you make those minis. I literally just pulled you through the entire process to the part where we were before. And the fancy fancies. Okay, so as promised, I told you I was going to do a slideshow. I told you I was going to do it, and I did. Now it's done. So, so we're still listening to Spotify, so I'm not sure why this is off. Okay, so I'm actually going to show you my workspace currently to show you what's going on in this zone. We have our cardboard pieces. They're all surface side up, and these are the surface. The enameled surface is going to be used as the interior, and the plain cardboard surface is going to be the exterior, which gets painted and colored and becomes the surface after it's done. Okay, so we're actually turning these boxes inside out in order to use them. I've got my acrylic paints. I've got some white and some gray. I'm going to use those and my decoupage, which is actually sitting over there. I'm going to use those and some decoupage and some Elmer's glue all in order to get all of these fully adhered and have a lot of, I say a lot of goop because it starts off as goop, but once it dries, it's not goopy anymore. It's just layers of acrylic. And acrylic is a plastic that, if you've ever heard of plasticization, in other words, the idea that you take little bits of plastic and put it all through something, say somebody's vein, you can turn it into a piece of plastic, which still looks like the person's vein. There's actually some weird artwork that's all about that. I'm not going to go into that. But the idea is that you are putting so much acrylic plastic on these that it is essentially plasticizing the cardboard, okay? Because all of the moist stuff is evaporating, and what you're left with is that acrylic plastic adhered to a surface. And the more layers that you put on top, and the decoupage is essentially the same stuff, the more layers you put on top, you're basically creating a big chunk of plasticky goodness. Quite wonderful. I also have a a cup for clean water. I have one of my coffee mix canisters that I'm using for my dirty water. Some paper towels, my brush. I've got my colors, my little color set over here that I will probably not get into at all right now, but I got it on hand. And of course, I got all my little plastic pieces for when I start throwing them into the mix. Over to the corner over here, I have all of my minis, along with little slats of, let's see, it's 3/8 of an inch by 2 3/4 inches, I think. I forget. It's the size of the tab at the bottom of these minis. Okay, so I've got a one for each of these minis, and that's how I'm going to double up the cardboard for the tab that sits down into the Pathfinder Pawns base. So that I'm not doubling up cardboard for the whole miniature. So I'll just show you, for example, our little crocodile dude. Okay. Dire crocodile, Sarcosuchus. Sarcosuchus is a real word from our real prehistory, just so you know. Okay. He goes there, and then we've got our little tab thing here, and I'm just going to glue it to the tab down at the bottom of this. I'll glue it all together, and then once we throw lots of layers of acrylic paint and decoupage onto it, it will essentially be one item. It looks like two items. It's very convincing, but it will eventually be one item. And it will be just like that, with a dire crocodile on each side of the mini. Like that. Or that. Or that. Or that. And this will not be free range. It will be attached. Like an appendage. Attached like an appendage. So, and so I've got all my minis, and all the illustrations cut. All the cardboard is cut. It's all measured out with the tab at the bottom is the appropriate size. We've got the extra piece of cardboard for the tabs in order to double them up and make them thicker. And we're ready to go. So I'm going to get into the painting portion of this. I'm not sure how much I'm going to do right now, today, but I probably won't do like recorded breaks because that would be silly since I'm not streaming. But I will be taking breaks today while I do this. The big thing is I just want to show that as you're painting, that you're going to do it in stages. I mean, you can't do it all at once. You can't get all the different sides of everything done all at once. You have to do it in steps. So also we're listening to just my what do we call it? My daily mixes. My daily mix 1, which is like chick singer stuff. I'm also going to turn it down just a little bit just to make sure that we don't break any copyright. So I showed you the slideshow, which means that technically I fulfilled all of my responsibilities except for doing a little bit of paint. So give me a second here. Ah, coffee is the wonder of life. Okay, just gonna put just a tiny bit of water on my brush just to get it so that it's not completely dry because it's been in a package this whole time. Oh yeah, these are like new brushes. They're made for acrylic paints, and oh, see, I'm glad I did this because it's got like this weird oily film to it. That's probably the stuff that they use to get it to be really sturdy when you pull it out. Like it's all like you have to like break it and crackle it down. Wow. Okay, well it was kind of oily and weird. So now it's not totally new brush. If I do this one down here, you won't see it. So I'll start with this one here. And this one I probably used way too much acrylic, but if there's excess, I can always take it and shove it off onto another piece. Also, the thing I didn't point out, I'm wearing some really shitty-ass clothes right now because if I get paint all over my shitty-ass clothes, I will not be upset. Because I was wearing some kind of nice stuff earlier, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's probably a bad idea when you're painting. So, if you have a smock, that's a good way to solve that dilemma. I do not have a smock, so I grabbed an old shirt that I like to use when I'm volunteering at the bird rescue, and some hospital pant things. I forget what they call them. Hospital pant things. Wow. Yay, morning time. So also, it's morning time, which, you know, is not typical for me or this channel. But I got a ton of rest because I had a crazy, wonderful weekend where I went and did fun things and completely tuckered myself out having fun. So I came back home and slept forever, and when I woke up, it was morning time. Wow, like normal people. Can you imagine? I can only barely imagine. I mean, I imagine it, but it sort of feels like fiction sometimes. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes my life seems like fiction. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it seems like a damn good book. Not because good things are happening, but because it's like wild. It's just completely wild. In ways that most people will just never fully appreciate. But I decided that, you know, with everything that's going on, with needing to find housing and all this, I'm like, I'm going to go enjoy the Seattle area. I'm going to go and be a tourist, essentially. I'm not really a tourist. But I went down to Pike Place Market, which is really great. Oh my god, Judy would love that. Judy, I miss you. I know you're not watching because you don't have the interwebs on a machine, but I love you. So yeah, this is definitely laying down on this cardboard in a very, very different way than the primer. So it's probably a good idea to throw this on, let it dry, and then figure out if it's enough. Oh yeah, because this is a little intense. Ooh, yeah, a little bit thick. Okay, you come over. I know, I'm so unorganized. They're like, wow, what's wrong with him? Why can't he just set something down? You know, some of us have troubles, okay? Some of us deal with stuff. That's half the fun of this channel, is knowing that the person who's doing all this amazing stuff is also a little bit messed up. And that gives us hope. Some of them out there are like, what the fuck is he on about? We'll figure it out. And so I threw just a little bit of water on here. It makes it a little thinner, but at the same time, I'm kind of hoping that just a little bit of dry acrylic on the bottom will make it a little easier to put on those next layers. Also, because it looks like it really wants to stick down to the cardboard, I'm going to do like I did in the photos, where I prop these up. Actually, let's bring this over here. Where I prop these up against something and let them dry like this. So that way, it's not garbage. Ha! That's my best explanation of things. That's what you get. If you want better, you need to start paying me. Motherfucker's gotta find a place to live. Hello. So, thus, therefore, that's what we do. Yeah, there's a lot of that acrylic paint that just ended up on the newspaper, but it's not really a problem. Oh, also, I think I totally grabbed the clean water. I'm supposed to grab dirty water. I don't pay attention very well. That's not true either. So the real question is, do I want to get into all of these ones? And I think the answer is, yeah, I do. Also, because I learned from last time that it's probably just easier to do one of these, and if there's any excess, use the excess onto the next cardboard only when you're ready to go to the next cardboard. Because this acrylic paint is definitely not like the primer. It definitely behaves very differently. So I'm just taking that into account. And unfortunately, there's just only so much taking into account you can do before you really have to have a plan. Is he talking about real life now? I don't know. God, I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. The only thing I know is that I'm confused. Okay, I'm better. Also, if you just kind of... Because there's going to be stuff that comes through this slat that if you just let that acrylic stay there, it will become this big bump. But if you flatten it out a little bit, it will not be a big bump of doom. It's a big bump of doom, also. So now you know. Now you've been informed. Half the fun of this channel is knowing that the person on the other side is whack. They're like, what do you mean? This guy's whack? What are you talking about? I'm talking about that's why you put on your shitty shirt. Is right there, what I just did. Standing with an army. Ooh, boy, oh boy, look at that. That's just goopy. Oh, you can't really tell. That's okay. I can tell. Oh, way too much. Way too much. That's alright. We will find a way to use it, even if we have to put it on the other side. They're like, wait, is this a painting stream or a singing stream? I'm confused. That's alright. Join the club. You see, half of this is not planned at all. In fact, most of the best stuff is the unplayable stuff. We're going to come back to this one, which was a little thin to begin with. And we're going to throw on more extra there for a lot. Extra painty. Extra little painties. That's for when you get the heebie-jeebies. Okay. Okay, so now I've done enough of these that I've got them, stacked against things. And if I were to jump into that next set, I could potentially have a real problem with making sure that they dry properly. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here with my nasty, goopy fingers. And I'm going to wash these nasty, goopy fingers. And then, hang on. I have a little goopy piece of acrylic. Hang on, we're going to whisper. This is the portion of the program where we whisper. We're going to whisper secrets to one another. My secret is that I don't keep any secrets. That's not really true either. But it's alright. Okay, so because this acrylic is like half dry, I'm actually messing it up more than I'm helping. So we're just gonna let it be. We're just gonna leave that. Okay. Now I can only barely touch my computer system without messing things up. So I'm gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna say that it was kind of silly of me to have the chat on when I wasn't actually streaming. I will attempt to come back and stream at some point today, if possible. Regardless, I will wrap this up. You've now seen the photo slideshow, which showed you the end result of all of this and the process to get there. So, so my workspace will look a little bit differently. Look a little different next time. Not terribly. Almost the same setup. But we're going to get rid of those and just glue them and set them off to the side and set all of the paper illustrations off to the side in a safe spot where they can't get torn. And, yeah, and then I'm just going to keep doing this layer of paint stuff on these. I highly recommend having just thrown that acrylic down on non-primed surface. I highly recommend a layer of primer. If you have gesso, if you have a interior-exterior primer paint from the hardware store, it works perfectly fine. That's what I did with the last one. And yeah, I'm going to recommend that because yes, this is effective, but probably not the best solution. But I'm going to let this dry because I think that's kind of the biggest deal here is once I get that layer of acrylic on there and dry, I think the next layers of stuff will adhere a little better and will make it much more solid and ready to be pressed together. And then at some point we will jump to the other side and paint those as well. And those colors will be very basic and simple at the beginning, and then as we work through them, I'll use more complex colors later on. I may have to go get more paint of specific colors, because that little tiny itty-bitty thing over there could, get used up really fast. But we will see how that works out later. For right now, I'm going to touch my mouse with the only clean finger I have to say goodbye. Goodbye, I love you.